Get ready with me while I talk about how I got diagnosed with IBS. If you don't know, IBS stands for irritable bowel syndrome, and it's one of those really vague conditions where you're kind of like, do I have it? Do I not? I get really bloated, and that's how one of my symptoms manifest, but for a really long time, I didn't think it was that deep. I just thought I was someone who bloats really bad. What made me start thinking like, hey, this might be a big problem is when I started getting these really bad stomach attacks. Like, I'm talking I could not walk, I could not move. I literally felt like someone was punching me from both ends. Like, not even being dramatic, the first time it happened, I genuinely thought there was something seriously wrong going on. Like, I thought there was some organ failure happening. I don't know. I was very concerned. So I went to the emergency department. They did a whole bunch of tests on me, but when it came back, everything was negative. And after a few hours of being there, the doctors were like, hey, we have no idea what caused this. It was probably a once-off thing. And I was like, yeah, bet. Fast forward a week later, I got the exact same stomach attack. Same thing, excruciating pain, thought I was gonna... And this cycle went on for like 3 years where I would get these really bad stomach attacks every few weeks, every few months. I would go to the doctors, literally do every single test under the sun. I was tested for my gluten. I went on worms medication. I did pregnancy tests. And I remember this being a really uncertain time in my life because it was genuinely the most excruciating pain I had ever felt. And I didn't know what it was. Anyways, it was only a few years ago when I got another one of those stomach attacks, and at this point, Jared and I had just started dating, and I was like, buddy, this is just something you're gonna have to get used to, but like, I need to go to ED right now because this paracetamol, she's not cutting it. We did the whole shebang, went to ED, I did a bunch of tests, they didn't know what was wrong, and I think that's when Jared was just like, hey, like, I think you actually have IBS, like, I don't think this is just a joke anymore. And I remember just being like, there is no way that IBS is causing me this much pain. Like, I was convinced that it was a more sinister problem that just no one had picked up on. The next day, I went to the GP and I was basically just like, hey, I think I have IBS. And that's basically when I started the diagnosis procedure for it. Looking back now, I don't think it's really worth getting diagnosed with IBS unless your main goal is to make sure you have nothing else going on. But like, it's a whole process. Basically, the process of getting diagnosed is to cancel out every other cause that could be causing your symptoms. And so I remember I did an ultrasound, I did some blood tests, I did a colonoscopy, which was in my top 3 worst moments of my life after getting cheated on. But once you do get diagnosed, there's really not much they can do other than tell you to manage your diet and your stress. And like, girl, you don't need a camera up your bum for someone to tell you that. Like, I can tell you that right now. There are some over-the-counter medications and also prescribed medication that you can take, but I personally haven't found any that have really worked for me. I did actually just finish antibiotics for SIBO, which is another stomach condition, but that is a whole other thing, whole other diagnosis process. Anyways, that is basically it. Let me know if you guys have any questions or if you're going through something similar. This is the final fit and I'm ready to go.